Welcome to the Joy of Cruising podcast with your host, award-winning author Paul C. Thornton, a weekly conversation with the amazing cruisers featured in the Joy of Cruising books, comprised of The Joy of Cruising, Cruising Interrupted, new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, as well as other fun, informative global cruise personalities. It's the next best thing to cruising, hearing about cruising from the unique and diverse perspectives of Paul's amazing guests. If you hear about a cruise that interests you, book it at www.thejoyofacation.com or enter to win a free cruise for two. Again, www.thejoyofacation.com. We really appreciate your feedback, so leave us a text. Paul can't reply, but he may read your text on the air.
Hello, passenger cruisers. This is Paul. This week, I am delighted to welcome back to the Joy of Cruising podcast, Iris MacBeath, creator of the blog Life of Iris. I wrote the story of Life of Iris in my latest book, The Joy of Cruising Again, in a section called Ship Life, which followed the career of 4 past and present cruise staff and officers from 3 different cruise lines. At the time I wrote that, in the community that comprises onboard life, Iris is a dual member. First, she not only is a longtime crew member on various ships for Holland America Line, but secondly, Iris is what is known in cruise ship parlance as a traveling spouse or spouse on board. Specifically, Iris's husband, Stuart, is a ship officer, and Iris has lived on ships with him. These distinct vantage points afford Iris a unique perspective of onboard life, and she chronicles that on her blog, Life of Iris. The chapter I wrote about Iris in The Joy of Cruising Again was easily the most poignant in the book, as I chronicled how Iris's life directly intersected with 2 of the major world events of the 21st century: COVID and the cruising shutdown, and the refugee crisis in Ukraine due to the unanticipated war with Russia. Iris came on the Joy of Cruising podcast almost 2 years ago to recount those events. Episode 62. Her story was also featured in episode 77, the most memorable, funniest, embarrassing moments of the podcast's first year. Iris also broke some news during her podcast. She was pregnant with her and Stuart's first child. When we reconnected for this episode, I was surprised to learn she had just delivered their second baby. Congratulations, Iris and Stuart. Welcome back, Iris, to the Joy of Cruising podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. It's lovely to see you again.
Yes, it's good to see you. So how you doing?
I am good. I'm good. Everything is, it's, I've got a newborn, so I'm in the throes of that and getting no sleep and all of that jazz, but it's all good.
So how's Stuart and the little girls? I'm looking at one of them.
Yeah, he's good, and everybody's doing well. We're lucky he's off the ship for quite a while for paternity leave, and yeah, so he's on a walk with our oldest one right now, and I've got the little one in my arms, so all is good.
So the oldest one, I assume he's not carrying her; she's walking. How old is she?
She's almost 2.
2. So he's strolling along with her then.
Well, they're outside. I think they have a little tricycle thing that you push along, and
okay.
I don't know how much she's walking versus riding on her little bike thing and all that jazz, but yeah, we so where we live in Vermont, there's actually a set of train tracks that are right near our house, and the train goes by every day sometime between 10:20 and 10:30, and so it's a very exciting thing for our toddler to see the train go by.
That's sweet. That's sweet. So when you were on the podcast last, you broke some news that you were expecting, and now to show you how long it's been, when I reconnected with you recently, I was surprised to learn there was a second. So two girls, right?
Two girls, yep, and it is going to stay at 2. And so part of the reason that it's going to stay at 2, other than I don't particularly enjoy pregnancy and all that jazz, has to do with cruising and how it works to cruise as a family on board. So I don't know if you want to get into that now or if you want to
No, say, yeah, yeah, say something about that.
So one part of it is our cabin space. So we on board are in my husband's crew cabin. They don't have like a special, here's the family deluxe suite apartment thing that they put you in. So if we're all cruising as a family, we only have as much space as is in his crew cabin. And we can manage with 2 kids. 3 kids would be seriously pushing it. And then the other part is if you're pregnant, you can't sail after being 24 weeks pregnant. And babies can't sail until they're at least 6 months old. And on a lot of itineraries, they can't sail until they're a year old.
Wow.
So for each kid that we have, that carves out a whole big chunk that we can't all sail together. So yeah, so we're going to be we're happy and blessed with our two wonderful girls, and for our particular life, that is going to be perfect.
So how old is the newborn?
She is almost a month. She's right about a month.
So it'll be at least 6 months or 5 months before you cruise.
Yeah, so the next time that we'll be cruising as a family is potentially March. That's when she'll be old enough, is in the month of March. I say potentially because right now he's scheduled to be on the world cruise during that time. And the kind of general rule for most cruise lines is that if there's an itinerary with more than 2 sea days in a row, so once you hit 3 sea days in a row, then baby needs to be a year old to sail. And so on the cruise, there's chunks with 3 days in a row of sea days. So we wouldn't actually join, assuming that things stay that way, until May. But he was just contacted last week actually by his planner about some potential shifts to that. So that may end up changing. But the soonest that we'll be on as a family would be March, depending on what itinerary he's on and if he's, what ship he's on at that time.
Okay. Well, we'll talk when we discuss future cruising. We'll talk some more particulars. So let's back up and tell the listeners about Iris and Life of Iris. So for starters, tell our listeners about yourself, where you're from, where you live, background, anything you would like to share.
We'll be right back.
Do you have a dream car? Mine is the Lucid Air. Are you intrigued by electric vehicles? The Lucid Air EV has been called the best driving car in the world. And the Lucid Air Sapphire is certifiably the fastest production car in the world. Listen to Lucid Driver Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts or at luciddriver.buzzsprout.com.
Sure. So my name is Iris and I'm from Vermont in the US. And that is where I officially live. That's where, I'm considered a resident of. But so for instance, this year I will have spent about 4 months traveling. We'll spend about 3 months in Scotland. So at the end of it, I will have been in Vermont for only, less than half of the year total. So while I officially live here, it is, we do spend a good chunk of our year traveling. My husband is from Scotland, so we put in a pretty good effort to make sure that we get to see the family that's there as much as we can too. And then of course, they're sailing on board the ship as well. And what else?
Let me jump in. When is the family in Scotland going to see the newborn?
We're heading over in the beginning of November. We're heading over. We'll be there for a few months. So
that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I think they're pretty excited about it. So Um,
And probably the last time they saw the toddler, she was how old?
so they saw her last in May. So we were on a big voyage. The last cruise that we were on we'll talk about that when we get to the full cruise thing. But so the cruise that we were on stopped in Edinburgh. It stopped in South Queensferry. And so my in-laws drove over to the ship for the day. We got off the ship and we went back to my in-laws' house and had lunch and hung out, and the toddler was playing around in the yard and everything. So
Oh, that's wonderful.
yeah, it's a cool part of being like when you have a place that's near a cruise port, like you can do that. It's so cool. So yeah.
Remind us of when and what motivated you to create Life of Iris.
So I created it very much thinking it was just going to be a blog in the old traditional sense of a blog, where you're kind of just like writing stories and things that happen to you, just kind of like, almost like journaling, but like a public journal, because we were going on world cruise. This was going into 2020. We were going on that world cruise, and I say we weren't passengers. I was going as Stuart's +1 for that particular voyage, and he was going as an engineer. And then as I started writing it, then of course the pandemic hit. And I think with the pandemic, it kind of prompted, like, people have a lot of questions about what crew life is like, about just how any of that works. And then with the pandemic, it was a whole different set of questions about what was going on. And so I started kind of answering those questions in my blog, and it kind of just developed from there. It was a little interesting during the pandemic, of course. I mean, we were on board for a very long time before we were able to disembark. That was a whole separate thing. But yeah, it started with that. We were going to be going around the world, and I thought it would be good to chronicle that. And then it's just developed from there. As there's a lot of articles on crew life, how different aspects of crew life work. And then also some parts that, like, things that I find interesting and enjoy. Like, I really like world cruising and like the kind of bigger voyages that exist. So I write a lot of stuff about that. Just, things that I think people could find interesting or useful. And yeah, so it's just kind of developed from there, and I definitely enjoy it. And I've enjoyed making connections with a lot of other people in the cruise industry and the cruise world, which it's been nice to be around people that love cruising too. So,
well, for the listeners, as I alluded to in the intro, and chronicled in depth in The Joy of Cruising Again, that world cruise that Iris, that kind of motivated Iris to create Life of Iris, turned into quite a drama, an on-sea drama, as they were caught up in the pandemic, which is part of the reason why I called that chapter the most poignant chapter in the book. But that wasn't the only reason, because later on, and you might say, well, how could a seafarer get caught up in the war in Ukraine? But you got to read the book to hear the details, or read the details, or just go back and listen to the first podcast, because it is just an amazing story to be kind of impacted by two of the biggest news events of this century. So let's talk about cruising. What was your most recent cruise? You might have just alluded to it. It's stopping in Scotland.
Yeah. So the most recent cruise that we did, we in this case is myself and my daughter, disembarked in June. My husband had a contract since then that we weren't able to be on because I was too pregnant.
Right.
But so the one we got off in June, we actually had joined the ship in Ushuaia, Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And then we disembarked in Boston. So it was something called the Pole to Pole cruise. And so it was going from the South Pole to the North Pole. So we joined just before Antarctica. The cruise itself was actually a round trip from Fort Lauderdale, but we just joined for the part that was my husband's contract. And so we joined just before Antarctica, sailed Antarctica, and then up the coast of South America, with quite a few stops in Argentina, Brazil. We did make the stop in the Falkland Islands, which was nice. And we did the Amazon River, then made our way across. We did a few ports in Africa, a little bit in, well, I mean, there's a good chunk of Europe. We didn't really do much in the Mediterranean. There was a fun meetup. Our ship, as well as the World Cruise Ship, were in Barcelona for an overnight together, and they had like a big party, and you could go between the ships, and that was pretty cool. And then we made our way up through. We had a stop in Scotland, which was nice, and then up through Norway to the North Cape. So that was our two poles. So we did Antarctica for the South Pole, and then the North Pole up in the North Cape. So we were up in the Arctic, and then Iceland, Greenland, Newfoundland, and then we ended in Boston. So
what an itinerary!
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Now, when you when the two ships met up and you had a big to do, was that just for staff and crew, or were passengers involved?
No, it was for passengers. It was it was designed for the passengers as a big event, for these two grand voyages, because both of these voyages were, I think the world cruise was 128 days. Our cruise was 133 days. So the president of the company was on board, and a lot of VPs, like all the big wigs that you can think of, were between the two ships, answering questions, meeting with all of the President's Club 5-star mariners. It was it was a big to do, and it was cool. It was definitely. I mean, it's always fun to be a part of those events. So
now, I'm going to take a guess that would have been what's your oldest daughter's name?
Madeline.
Madeline. Was that Madeline's first cruise?
No. Nope. So her first cruise was actually the day that she turned 6 months old. We were on a ship. And so we spent a few weeks doing Canada, New England last year. And then we also, she had about a month in Europe. The ship was doing a legendary voyage, which is like a month and a half long Mediterranean cruise. And so we joined the ship that time in Rome, and then we left in Spain. Okay. So she's, at this point, she's been to 5 continents, 20 something countries, and has spent probably 100 and what would I say? Maybe 150 days at sea. And she's not even 2.
So on that last cruise, she was a little older. Was she, what's the right word, cognizant of her surroundings? I mean, what does she think about cruising? Is she old enough to kind of recognize that something's going on?
Well, she definitely sees the ship as home. Even now, like if she sees a picture of the ship or like a ship model that we have in the house, she always waves at it. She always sees the ship and she's like, "Oh, hi." Like she just associates it with, a friendly, warm feeling. And she definitely treated the ship as home. Like there's no one's office on board that was safe from her going in and just being like, "Hi, I'm going to hang out with you now. Like you thought you were doing something important, but I'm more important. Please spend time with me." And so she understands that like that's daddy's work and that's daddy's job, but like she knows like where our cabin is and that's our home while we're there. And I don't think she definitely doesn't comprehend like, oh, we're in Argentina today and
sure.
Another day but she, sees like, oh, this place has fun music. That's cool. I'm going to dance to the fun music. And this place has monkeys. That's fun. Let's look at the monkeys. And oh, there's penguins. Oh, it's cold out today. Oh, we're going to see a sloth or whatever the thing is. Like, so I think she found the changing itinerary and seeing so many different things really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then the time that we had on board, we tried to have it be a little, so like the days ashore were very, I would say, mentally stimulating for her. The days on board, we tried to have a little bit more chill, or just like, we're going to go run around on the sports deck. We're going to go, just kind of have it be more home feeling, so that she had a little bit of consistency in that experience. So,
so the name of your upcoming episode is of this episode is "How Does It Work Living on a Cruise Ship as a Family?" So you've already kind of introduced that. So talk about that. How does it work living on a cruise ship as a family?
So the majority of senior officers, and this isn't just for the cruise line my husband works for, but most cruise lines will offer this as a benefit to the senior officers, or even, depending on the cruise line, it might not be a senior officer. Technically, the last job that I had on board, I was a two-stripe officer, so very much considered mid-management. And I technically had this privilege as well. My cabin was not as big, so it would have been harder to pull off. But most cruise lines will offer this at some level, where the family can come sail. And so in our situation, we can actually sail pretty much the entire time that my husband is at sea, assuming that, this past year, we've had a couple situations where we couldn't sail, such as I was too pregnant and the child wasn't old enough for the itinerary. But so in general, they can, it's about 180 days a year that we can be on board. When we're on board, we live in my husband's crew cabin. We do not have to pay to be on board. We do have to have travel insurance. We have to pay for our own way to get to the ship. There's definitely things on board that we still have to pay for. But we're not charged a passenger rate to be there. And then when we're on board, we kind of live this in-between life between crew life and passenger life. We're not checking in for our job. We're not reporting for duty in that way. We can be in the crew areas. We can go do the passenger things. We definitely focus on having it be passenger first, though.
Sure.
So, like on this last voyage, there were only 2 kids on board. There was our daughter and then one other child. And there were a lot of different presentations and things like that. And like we would go to the presentation, but if my toddler started being unfocused, we would typically leave. And that's not because I don't think that toddlers have a right to experience everything. But we weren't paying to be there. And the people that were watching that presentation were paying a lot to be there. And so, I didn't want to, we tried to just be aware to add to people's experience and not necessarily take away. But, somewhere like the Lido, like that's where we eat the bulk of our meals. We can eat in the crew mess downstairs and everything. But in terms of high chairs and stuff, it's a lot easier to just eat in the passenger areas. There were definitely days where my toddler was very much being a toddler. And I'm like, well, in those situations, there are times where I kind of think to myself, well, you know what? These people, they did choose to go on a cruise line that does allow children. There are cruise lines that don't allow children. And so, most everyone was very excited and supportive and encouraging to have her on board. And I will say it's a different vibe between like a super long voyage like that versus like a week-long cruise. On a week-long cruise, you have a lot more kids on board. And so people are just kind of expecting like there's a kid. It just is part of cruising. The long cruises, it was a little bit different, just because the passengers were getting to know you more and because there was only one other child on board. But yeah, so for us, like we kind of adjust our crew cabin to make it work with a crib and everything. And when we go back with 2 kids, we're going to be adjusting it to work for both kids to be on board.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend that stays with her 2 kids that are maybe 5 and 7 now, maybe a little bit older than that. And they actually bring like little cots to put on the floor for the kids to use. And, you know, that we'll probably end up using, there's a couch in our room. So we'll probably get a sofa bed couch. I think our cabin actually has a sofa bed couch already. So that'll be for the toddler. And, you know, we kind of figure out and make that work. But yeah, so that's kind of the base gist of, you know, the technical side, I guess, of living on a cruise ship as a family. We do still have to get any visas that passengers would have to get, any immunizations. So this past one, we had to get a yellow fever. I had that because I'd been on the Amazon before, but my daughter, we had to get that. And then different required visas. When you're a crew member, the visa situation is very different when you're a crew member. But we are technically on the passenger list when we're sailing as my husband's family on board. So we still have to do any visas that the, you know, passengers would have to do as well.
Mm-hmm. Did Madeline interact with the other only child on board, or are they similar ages?
Yeah, the other child was a little less than a year older. There was maybe 10 months between them.
Okay.
And so they were close enough in age that they were like, oh, it's another little person. Like, well, like, let's go chase each other. Let's go up the stairs together. But when you're that young, there's definitely a pretty big developmental difference between, you know, when we got on the ship, Madeline was not quite 15 months, maybe. She definitely wasn't a year and a half yet. And the other toddler had already turned 2. And so there's a pretty big developmental difference between those ages, but they definitely, they would play together. And it was really nice to have that other mom that was on board, because we developed a pretty good friendship. Just, you know, talking about mom life, or, you know, there was one day that there was a really great kind of water park right next to the ship, like an indoor water park with water slides. And there was a really good toddler area. And so she was telling me about that, or we, you know, compare notes on, oh, you know, I saw that there's a really good playground in this port, or this port has, you know, XYZ family friendly amenities here, kind of deal. So yeah, that was nice. And then actually during part of the cruise, there was one part of the cruise that another officer had his 2 kids on board. They were enough older that they didn't really play together very much, but it was, we were all in the same hallway. And at one point, and our cabin is connected to where the entrance to the bridge is. And at some point there were just 3 kids literally just like running up and down and up and down and up and down the hallway right outside of the bridge. And I was like, well, this is yep, this is entertaining for some. It was pretty funny. So
now on the ship that you were on, you know, Madeline's last cruise, did you know much of the crew from your crew days?
Yeah, I had worked with, I mean, a lot of people on board I had worked with when I was a crew member. It was the same, like the last cruises that I had worked as a crew member, it was the same ship. And yeah, so there was a lot of there's some positions where where people shift around, but a lot of like the deck and engine officers, they go back to the same ship for at least a few years in a row. So I knew the bulk of them from when I had been a crew member on board. And then also a lot of the entertainment staff were people that I had known before, at least on the management side of things, were people that I had worked with before. So, which is nice. I think that makes it a little less isolating when you're kind of in that, where you're not a full passenger and you're not a full crew member, because you already have people that you had built and developed friendships with. And then I ended up really good friends with the cast, like the singers and dancers.
Uh-huh.
Madeline she really was drawn to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a great, um, yeah, they're great people. And she got to go to a bunch of their rehearsals because the show times were usually too late for her for bedtime. And so we'd go to rehearsals in the afternoons.
And I'm sure she really enjoyed that.
Oh, she absolutely loved it. Yeah, so she might have a future on stage. We'll see.
uh that is wonderful. And by the way, listeners, um, Iris has background in terms of kids on board and children in general, because correct me if I'm wrong, Iris, but I think I recall you started your uh, uh, crew life as a child care specialist, right?
Yep. Yeah, my first job on board was as youth staff. So um it's a little bit full circle. And I so once my daughter is a year old, then she's going to be able to go to the kids club on board, and it's going to be very full circle to me to have been the person that was working at the kids club to now being the person dropping my kid off at the kids club. So
Mm-hmm. Now, wait a minute. You said once you're talking about your second
no, so,
becomes a year old, right?
no, so, well, so the kids club on board, our ship starts at age 3. So
Oh, okay, okay.
each cruise line, their kids program has different rules and requirements. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple cruise lines that they have programming starting at 6 months, like Disney Cruise Line, Royal Caribbean. They have some programming that'll start at 6 months. Other cruise lines will have things that start at 2 years. Like Carnival has some things that start at 2. But there's a lot of cruise lines that their programming for the kids starts at age 3.
Okay.
If any of your listeners are planning on booking cruises and you have small humans that you're bringing with you, you want to pay attention to what the cruise line offers. If you're planning on if you are looking for your kids to, get dropped off and hang out in the kids club, or if you're looking for a kids space, another thing I know we're kind of focusing on my experience, but just as a heads up for listeners, kids aren't allowed in cruise ship pools except for on Disney and Royal Caribbean. They both have some splash pads that allow, I shouldn't have said kids, sorry, babies. Babies or toddlers that are still in diapers. So they are not allowed in the pools until they're either potty trained or in these splash pads on Disney and Royal Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are going on any other cruise and think your kid's going to play in the pool all day, if they're not potty trained, they're not allowed to. So
Mm-hmm.
little heads up for people planning their cruising life with babies and toddlers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what else distinguishes uh, uh, living on a cruise ship as a family? So she's seen the rehearsals of the shows. Does she interact with uh, much of the crew beyond the entertainment staff?
Yes, yeah. She pretty much interacts with everybody on board. I mean, there's the staff members that are people that I'm friends with, but then it's also like, when we go to the Lido, it's people that are helping, that are making sure that we have a high chair, or that know that, at breakfast we're going to get XYZ, or if they happen to if there's berries and strawberries and blueberries that day, they, are like, hey, come over here. We've got extra blueberries that we set aside for her.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, but we're also in the crew elevators. We're on the A deck, like I-95, the main corridor for, we're in all of those spaces as well. Sometimes with her walking, sometimes with her in a stroller. And, there's, we're going around the ship as if kind of like we're a crew member, just in terms of the areas that we're in. But
Mm-hmm.
security also knows her and knows us going on and off the ship with the stroller and everything. But they're, then we spent a lot of time in the engine, the technical office, where my husband's office is, but also in the deck office. We would crawl, she would, walk over there and we'd hang out there. And if I needed a break for 5 minutes, there was one time that I had a phone call I had to do. My husband wasn't available and I walked over and the staff captain was there. And I was like, hey, can you watch her for like 10 minutes? And then I go back to get her and she's on the bridge. We were in port at the time. So just, if anyone's like, oh, we're going to get them in trouble. But, it was, and, so yeah, so I went to collect my child from the bridge. And that it's, she's interacting with and around everyone on board, from the captain to a laundry attendant and everybody in between. And it's also great for her culturally. I'm from Vermont, which is like the least diverse place in the US in terms of basically everything. Like, and on the ship, she's exposed to, how many different languages, how many, like there's so many different cultures, religions, that she's exposed to on board that she wouldn't be at home. And so that's one of the really cool parts about us being on board, is just, aside from where we see, like where the ship actually gets to go, but like who's on board, that she's, getting this whole different worldview and perspective with.
Have you and Stuart had to avail yourselves of some kind of babysitting while you go out to dinner or anything like that, or you haven't done that yet?
So it's not like there's designated babysitters on board that we use. If there's people that we're comfortable with that are willing to, like the singers and dancers, the cast, they were, as well as one of the classical musicians, they were very willing to babysit for whenever it worked with their schedule and they were able to. There were some officers that were more than happy to. And so in terms of that would just be something that we'd organize ourselves if we wanted that. And so luckily there were some people on board that were great with her that we were able to make that happen with. Most of the time when we went to dinners and stuff, we still brought her with us. And actually there was one time we went to the fancy specialty restaurant on board, the fancy steakhouse, and we had her with us, and she was doing so well right up until the end. And then she started to have this meltdown, and I'm sitting there and there's this couple one table over, and they're easily 5-star mariners. Maybe they're even President's Club. Like they're at like 1,000 days of cruising with this cruise line. They're on this 133-day cruise that the starting price on per person is easily $30,000 or more, and our daughter is just fully melting down, and they and like we're trying to get her like out so we can like take her out of the restaurant so that we're not bothering all these other people. And this couple comes over and they're like, thank you so much. And I was like, what are you thanking me for? Like, our kid is falling apart here. And they're like, oh, it just brought us back. We miss when our kids were that age. And they're like, and you know what? The only way they're ever going to learn how to be in like restaurants and stuff is if you take them. So you keep taking that girl out. And I was like, oh my gosh, you people are so wonderful. Like, I thought they were going to come over and, tell us that we ruined their night. And instead, they were just so happy to have a kid around that it was a very, I should have gotten their names for that couple, but, it was a really encouraging moment, from them for having her on board. So.
When you say melting down, she was just crying, fidgety?
Yeah. It was just, she was done sitting in one spot. She wanted to go run. She wanted to go dance. And, she was fidgety. She wanted out, and yeah, and sometimes the restaurants that have many courses it's hard to, even with toys and stuff, to keep her entertained. I mean, I think anyone that has taken toddlers out to a restaurant understand that
Yeah.
to some extent. Yeah, so nothing bad had happened. It was just she was like, yeah, I'm kind of sick of this. I want to go back to the cabin, and I want to, dance around and read some stories and go to bed. And yeah.
Well, it could have been worse. I've had a guest on who talked about a toddler like throwing carrot sticks, to other tables.
No, we haven't had that happen yet. I'm hopeful that we don't. I certainly am not going to judge other parents, because once you're in parenting, I think I have a totally different appreciation and respect for the people that are, before it'd be like, oh, that family, that kid is melting, is like falling apart or whatever. Like, oh, those parents, I don't know, you kind of have like an internal monologue about like how you would do it better or different or whatnot. And once you're in it, you're like, oh yeah, no, this is hard. Like, you're managing their emotions and trying to do good. It was interesting because we were on for so long. When you're on for a long chunk of time, we eat a lot of our meals in the Lido, her and I would. And developmentally, like, there's time, like, you want her to be practicing with her silverware. You want her to be practicing with cups. And there's a lot of different things that you want her to be working on, but you also have to kind of balance that with, okay, we're in a public place. We're in a restaurant right now. And how much of a mess, like when you're at home and she makes a mess, you kind of like, you're in control of that situation.
Right.
And you're like, I don't want her to be making a mess because someone else is going to have to clean it up in this situation. Like, it's not like I can't. Yeah. It's so you kind of have to balance out how much you let your toddler be a toddler with how much you're working on respecting both the passengers that are there, as well as the staff that are going to be cleaning up the potential chaos that ensues. So that was kind of an interesting balancing act. It was also like when you, like, every morning for breakfast, think about, it's a lot to ask a small child to do for like 100 days in a row. Is like, you wake up, and when you are getting your like cereal or your eggs or whatever, there's 100 people that want to talk to you. She was one of the only kids on board, and so she was like a feature almost. Like, people were like, oh, how is she today? Like, and in general, it's excitement. Like, they're happy to see her, but her reaction was not always excitement back to them. She's kind of like, why are you talking to me? Like, I'm still waking up, dude. Or like, my mom just put me in the stroller and said, we're going to get breakfast, and I really wanted to be reading my book still, or whatever the thing was. Like, it's an interesting experience to, in essence, be raising your kid in that environment where there's, a lot of people that are very well-meaning and very happy to see you, but they also kind of want her to perform. Like, they want her to be smiley. Like, they're like, oh, hi, how are you today? Like, they're all excited. And she's like, like, I don't want to talk to you. I'm not into this right now. And so I will say that she is a very social kid now, probably because she's had so much social exposure. But there are definitely days where most of the time I felt really good about having her on board. And I mean, the main reason that we're there is so that we can spend time with Stuart, with her dad.
Right.
Like,
sure.
Yeah, that's like, the rest of it is really secondary to that goal, which is for her to get to spend time with her dad and us to be together as a family. But most of the time I was also like, this is a really positive experience for her. She's getting to experience so many different cultures and, try so many different foods and all this stuff. But there were definitely some times where, you could tell that she is like, I don't want to be around all these people right now. But it might have been that our only option to get food at that part of the day was to go where all the people were. And, we had snacks in the cabin. Like, I don't want to make it sound like we had other options, but, sometimes it was sometimes a little complicated feeling of like, oh yeah, we're raising her. She's like stuck in this situation. She didn't get a choice that we're going to be living on a cruise ship for a whole bunch of time and be very much a kind of public feature, which I'm excited for the cruises. Like, it sounds weird to not, I'm excited for cruises where there's more kids, like for like 1 week Caribbean cruises. And not that I don't love being on world cruises on these bigger voyages, but when you kind of can blend into the crowd a little more,
Sure.
I think will be a kind of nice thing for her and for us, especially as when we go back on board and we're navigating having 2 kids in this kind of weird situation. It will be kind of nice to be able to blend in. Yeah.
So when Stuart is off working, you've mentioned the Lido deck a few times. Other than going to eat, what's a typical day like for you and Madeline, and soon to be you, Madeline, and what's the baby's name?
Isabel.
Isabel?
Isabel. Yep.
Okay.
So our day is kind of whatever we make it into. So far we haven't been able to utilize the kids clubs at all.
Right.
And our ship is, I don't want to discourage anyone from taking a cruise with babies and toddlers because it can be a lot of fun. But it's kind of the fun that you make. There's not like designed fun for it, at least on our cruise line. And so, we wake up, we have a little bit of hangout time in the cabin, then we'll go get breakfast. Every once in a while, we'll do that downstairs. Most of the time we would go to the buffet. We did sometimes go to the restaurant as well. That kind of depended on how sleep went overnight, how we're feeling that day, what time it is. We also had a lot of time changes. And so there were times that she would wake up at like 4 a.m. if we had like a few hour backs in a row. And then there were times that she would wake up super late if we had a few hour forwards in a row. So that was, that shifted things as well. And then if the weather was good, we'd go out and play on the sports deck for a little while. We would try to meet up with some friends on board. We'd probably go visit some different offices. Sometimes we'd go visit, hotel people. Sometimes we'd go visit deck people. Sometimes we'd go visit the engineers. If there's any presentations or like dance classes going on, when we were on the Amazon River, we had a Brazilian dance troupe that was there. And so we'd go see the different dance classes. Sometimes we would participate more than others. There was also an unofficial Zumba class that would happen in the morning. So sometimes we would go to that. Yeah. So depending on what the activities were, we might pop in to different things, different events that were happening. And then my husband would have his lunch break. So we'd have that time together as a family. And then in the afternoon, it kind of similar. We'd just, see what different activities were happening. We also have nap time factored in there because she's a toddler. So you'd have nap time. She was on 2 naps a day for the most part during this chunk. So sometimes that nap would be, we'd go for a walk around the promenade or the lifeboat deck, the boat deck, with the, her in the stroller for a stroller nap outside. Other times it'd be in the cabin. Inevitably, this would happen on port date. This would happen just, inevitably the day that I was like, we're going to have a really, really good nap today. And then there would be like 20 announcements that day. Well, that doesn't really work. Like when the announcements start going off in the cabin and you're trying to get a toddler to sleep, that part's a little bit hard. Yeah, then Stuart would get off work and we'd have, dinner and maybe go see a show, maybe go listen to some live music. We definitely spent a lot of time. If there was a music opportunity to go to, we would tend to go to that. She liked listening to it, dancing to it, and yeah, just kind of making the day what we can based on what's happening on board. Sometimes we would just walk down the hallways and look at the decorations on people's doors. Like, it's interesting, the different things that entertain a toddler. Stairs, there's a lot of stairs on a cruise ship. Toddlers love stairs. But yeah, that's kind of our day. And then if we're going ashore, sometimes you balance it with nap time. Sometimes you just decide you're going to have nap times ashore. Then you go from there. An interesting one is planning. I mean, any parent has had to do this. You plan what snacks you're going to bring for the day. You plan your diapers. You plan all of that. When you're living on the ship, sometimes your plan is that you need to go get diapers. And so, you'd go get whatever country you were in, you'd go and you'd get your phone out with Google Translate and you'd figure out which size and which type made sense and bring your diapers on that way. And I will say this is a very specific thing that I was dealing with this past time. But so I was pregnant for that whole last cruise that we were on. For a healthy pregnancy, you do need to be getting checked. Like you need to be seeing a doctor. You need to be going to get your ultrasounds and get various things. So I actually had doctor's appointments one in Buenos Aires. I had one in Gibraltar, and I had one in Reykjavik, Iceland.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then when I was pregnant with Madeline, I had an appointment in Scotland as well. And the beginning of that pregnancy, I was in Alaska. So at this point, through 2 pregnancies, I've had doctor's appointments in Alaska, Buenos Aires, Gibraltar, Reykjavik, Scotland, and Vermont. So it's been interesting to see the different doctor's offices, that's a different side of things to see and experience. So
Does Madeline look forward to going ashore? Is that special, or is kind of part of the routine?
It's just kind of part of the routine. Honestly, the thing she looks forward to most on board is if we're in the cabin and I'm like, Daddy's coming, like Daddy's going to be here in 5 minutes. Like that's kind of like I'm going to say she understands the assignment. Like the reason we're there is to see Daddy. So I think if we were going ashore to see animals, she really likes animals, but otherwise, that her kind of big excitement on board is seeing Daddy. I also think if there was consistency when we were going ashore, so like say we were on a 1-week run in Alaska and we were doing the same cruise each week. And so say each Wednesday we're in Skagway and I could be like, oh, we're going to go to a hike to the lake today. Then she would understand like, oh, we're going for a hike to the lake today. But when everything changes every single time you get off the ship, it's like, oh, we're going to go ashore today. She doesn't know what that's going to be. So I don't think she would know, should I get excited about this? Like maybe we're going to go, like we went ashore in Manaus and it was just so hot out that day. It was so hot and it was just very busy feeling. Like, I think she was like, she wanted to get back on the ship. She was like, this is like, but then another day we went ashore like in Devil's Island and okay, it rained for like half the day, but there were monkeys everywhere and peacocks and different animals. And so she's like, this is awesome. But she doesn't necessarily like when it changes every single place that you're getting off, it's kind of hard to, I think, for her to get excited about it because she doesn't really like, as much as I could say, oh, we're going to go for a walk and we're going to see animals. If we go for that also drastically changes. Are we going to go for a walk and we're going to see dogs? Are we going to go for a walk and we're going to see monkeys? Are we going to, go see penguins? Like, what is the thing that we're going to see changes a lot. So I think with like 1 week itinerary, she would be able to get more excited about it. And it's also as she gets older, she'll get, she understands it more. But yeah.
So just being outside is not necessarily a treat, although I suspect that's going to change as she gets older.
Yeah, I think that will change. And then also once she's old enough to use the pool, I think she's going to be really excited about that. But I think going outside on the sports deck, like, hey, do you want to go run around run around on the sports deck. Like, she's like, yes, I totally want to do that. She gets excited about that. But just going ashore, the experience can be so different between different ports. If I'm like, hey, do you want to go to a playground? She understands, like, oh, playground, the slide, that means, this stuff. Or, oh, do you want to go ashore today with Millie, which is one of my friends on board? Like, do you want to go ashore with them? And then she'll be like, oh, we're going to go on an adventure with this person that I love and trust. And so then that becomes kind of the excitement of it. But, and I think it will be interesting as she gets older. And now as we have our second one, what she gets excited about as in this experience, in the being on board. Like, is she still going to be really, really into going to the shows and getting excited about that? Is she going to turn into the world's greatest ping pong player? I don't know. How the excitement shifts over time will be pretty interesting to see.
Sounds like just a unique situation. I tell you, between the two major events that affected your crew life, and then now living on board with a family of two toddlers, two soon-to-be toddlers. I don't know. I see a book in all of this.
I mean, maybe someday.
Yeah.
I will say, so the second of those kind of the situations that happened when I was a crew member. So I know you said you can listen to the other podcast, but so I was on board the ship when it was used to house Ukrainian families that were escaping from Ukraine. They made it to the Netherlands as refugees. So there are times that we're on board and we're living in the crew cabin and space feels very small. Like how our meals are structured, having the announcements go off during nap time, all of these things. Like, there are days that the experience is frustrating. And I remind myself that there were a lot of families that lived on board that were just so grateful to have a safe place to be.
Sure.
And it really shifts my perspective as to what I'm experiencing. There were families that didn't know when they would see their dad, their spouse, whatever again. They are a whole family living in a cabin. And, they made it through those situations with so much gratitude that the days that I get frustrated, it helps keep things in perspective, very much so.
Good point. Good point. So let's talk a little bit about the future. You alluded to it earlier, but refresh our memories. When do you plan to get back on the ocean with your newly constituted family?
Yeah, so
you said May, right?
So definitely by May, possibly by March. So if my husband's contracts shift a little bit, or if it ends up being on a different ship, then we could be on as early as March. But otherwise, we'll be on in May, starting the very end of the world cruise, which it'll be going through the Panama Canal, and then a little Caribbean, I think, and then up to Canada, New England. So that's potentially the first cruise that the newest little one will take, but otherwise we'll see where it is. But definitely as soon as she's old enough for whatever voyage we're going to be on, we'll be back on board. So
interestingly, my next cruise is on your cruise line to the Panama Canal.
Nice.
Yeah. End of October.
Is that your first time through the Panama Canal or no?
Yes.
It's your first time. Oh, that's exciting.
So only the second time on your cruise line. I went on it unexpectedly, actually, earlier this year. It was a theme cruise. It was called the Soul Train Cruise. So that was my first exposure to your cruise line, and I did a podcast about it, and we raved. So that really kind of has us really anticipating this cruise coming up, which is just a regular cruise, not a theme cruise, with a wonderful itinerary. We stopped in Colombia and all of that. So
cool. Well, enjoy your time on board and your time going through the Panama Canal. It's a long day. The whole experience of going through is pretty much the whole day's worth. But it's definitely the engineering marvel that they tell you about. So,
I always
get excited when I get to go on that for the first time. Once you've been through it quite a few times, it loses a little bit of its luster. And I know from a deck and engine perspective, they have extra that they have to do on those days, so it makes for a long day for them. But from a cruising perspective, it's very cool to be a part of and to see. And I'm so glad that you had such a great time on the Soul Train cruise.
Yes, yeah. In fact, I don't typically repeat. I never repeat experiences, either ships or experiences, but we were so taken by our experience that we booked for 2026. We went in winter, I guess it was still winter of 25. So we booked 26 on the ship. So that's a lot of anticipation.
Fabulous.
And again, it's back on your line. So
yeah, it's interesting how you say you don't repeat experiences, but as I've done, I don't even know how many seasons in Alaska. And like so much of that, like when you're a crew member, it's rare that you're on a contract where you don't repeat the itinerary over and over again. Like it's rare that you have a contract where you're going different places all the time. I've just kind of accepted that for part of cruising for me is there's going to be some repeat experiences that happen. And it's and like since 2022, we've just gone back to the same ship pretty much the whole time, which is interestingly very similar to the ship that we were on for like 4 or 5 years before the pandemic. For me, with like cruising, there's a lot of familiarity and home. Literally the same ship, literally the same cabin, sometimes it's going to a lot of the same places, sometimes it's a lot of new places, but there's a lot of familiarity in a repeat experience. And for you, cruising is very much each time it's a very new experience. Like each part.
Yeah. Now I will say, since we last spoke, we did go to Alaska, and we just fell in love with it and decided, committed. That was the first destination that we would repeat. So we haven't gone back, but we know we're going back to Alaska. There's some destinations. I mean, even you don't have to be a crew member. If you go to the Bahamas a fair amount of time, I've been to Nassau a zillion times.
Yeah.
But Alaska was the first destination that we decided to repeat on purpose. So
understandably so. Alaska is gorgeous.
So do you don't have any idea what's coming up cruise-wise beyond May, right?
Beyond May, the end of the year, if things stay the way that they're scheduled, we'll be doing some Canada, New England, and then I believe we'd be on for another Grand Mediterranean. So it's round trip. I think this one's round trip from New York, and then head over to the Mediterranean for about a month, and then head back to New York at the end. So I think that would be kind of the next thing. We don't have any cruises scheduled just for fun right now. I'm not sure when we'll decide to do that. As a family, when we'll decide to, go just as separate from contracts, separate from his work, but I'm sure that'll happen at some point too. So
for someone who started off, your first assignment, I believe, was Alaska. You've been to South Pole, North Pole. You mentioned a couple of stops in Africa. Do you even have a bucket list?
So my bucket list cruise is still, and it was the last time we spoke because I haven't gone yet. I would love to go on the Queen Mary 2 transatlantic.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. It just, when that ship came out, it was such a big deal in its design, in the industry. Like it was like, I mean, I was barely a teenager at the time, but I was already very in love with cruising. That was just, it's such an iconic ship. That I would love to sail on that. I guess it doesn't actually have to be a transatlantic. I would just love to go sail on that. And aside from that, we haven't sailed just a traditional cruise in the Caribbean, just go enjoy some islands for a really long time. It's been quite a few years since I've done that. So I actually would love to just do like a happy little island hopping cruise. Go get some, enjoy the beach. And yeah, that would be good. I haven't explored much of Africa, so seeing more of Africa would be good. I think I'd like to wait maybe until the girls are, I don't know, 5 or 7 or so for that. I mean, if it happens before then, it does, and then they get to experience it really young. But that would be a cool part of the world to see. I always love sailing in the South Pacific. Those islands are just gorgeous. So down there would be good. Australia is always nice, but for a specific bucket list cruise, it would be on the Queen Mary 2. Yeah, otherwise, I mean, it's nice to explore the world and see what's out there. I would like to check out some different ships. I've been mostly between my cruise line, and then I've done a few cruises on Seabourn, which is a luxury line over the last few years. But, I haven't been on a lot of the recent like Royal Caribbean ships, or I haven't sailed on a Carnival ship in 20 years. Like it'd be just kind of interesting to see that, how just the new ships and everything, and some of the features that are there, some of the entertainment. That'd be fun to get out and experience and do.
Let me go back. You said you stopped at 2 ports in Africa on your last cruise. What were they?
We stopped in Gambia and Senegal, ports that we stopped at. And I didn't get, they had one of the ports, they had kind of like an animal safari. Like they had some kind of safari element that you could do, which we weren't able to get on that tour. There was an age restriction on one of the tours that was available, and the other one was sold out. So I do think if, we were able to spend some more time in Africa, some aspect of safari, seeing all those incredible animals out in the wild, I think it would blow my daughter's mind. She would be losing it. So yeah, that would definitely, when that happens, that will be awesome.
Yeah, Africa's at the top of my bucket list, and we finally are going to get to. I'm taking a small group to Africa in 27, but it's not a cruise. It's a land trip, and that's why I asked you what ports did you stop at. We're going to Kenya and Egypt.
Last year, when we were on the Mediterranean cruises. So, yep, we were in Alexandria, and then we did do the tour down to see the pyramids. So that was a long day on a bus with a toddler. Actually, she wasn't even a toddler then. She was like 10 months old. An infant. Because she was young at the time.
Yeah.
And like the pictures that we have in front of the pyramids, like she's in the baby carrier and she's just completely asleep. It's like, here's one of the wonders of the world, and you're asleep for it. But
but when she gets into grade school, she could say, "Well, I've been to the pyramids. I might have slept through them, but I was there."
Yeah. Like the day that we went to Christ the Redeemer, she obviously not in Egypt, but
Brazil.
In Brazil, when we went to that, it was like so hot out, and we have this family picture where Stuart and I are both smiling, and she's mid but like we're trying to take like any family picture.
Well, Iris, it has been wonderful reconnecting with you. Before we let you go, though, a couple of light and dare I say fun cruise questions. But first of all, let me say welcome to the Life of Iris fans and friends listening, so that your fans and friends and my listeners can get to know you better. Let me ask a few questions that I ask repeat guests. So first question is the softball. I ask this of all guests. Tell our listeners and your friends and fans, how do you spend your me time? Probably want to say what me time?
A little bit with the new one and whatnot. But when we're not in full on newborn kid mode, I would say I spend a lot of my me time with my family. When we're in Vermont, I have a grandma who is almost 90. who lives close by and is still with us. So we kind of try to focus a lot of time on spending time with her and doing different things, kind of treating, when I go on a cruise, I don't ever treat anything as it's my last experience. But with my grandma, well, we might not have this chance again. Overall her health is pretty good, but once you're close to 90, you kind of got to treat every opportunity as like, okay, let's go for it. Let's go do it. So try to spend a lot of time with her when we're in Scotland, spend a lot of time with my husband's family, a lot of family time, trying to get outside as much as we can, especially in Vermont. Winter is coming. Not that you can't spend time outside in the winter. It's a different kind of beauty, but just enjoy the outdoors as much as we can. What I would like to get back to in me time eventually, again, I used to play in an orchestra here. I used to play violin with the Vermont Philharmonic. So I think I'd like to get back into that part of me time.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Eventually, I'll probably start running, not necessarily going to the gym, but maybe doing some yoga and, the kind of physical side of things. But, postpartum's an adventure. So we'll see when that kind of happens. Yeah, my brother has a farm, so we go visit him on the farm and go see the cows. And when we're in Scotland, it's a lot of my me time is kind of figuring out like, oh, should we go see another castle? Like, oh, look, there's a castle. Let's go find another castle to see, or let's go on this walk in the Highlands. Or
next question. What are you listening to right now in terms of music, podcasts, or audiobook?
I'm listening to a lot of toddler songs. If you'd like to sing The Wheels on the Bus, I got that down. But otherwise, Taylor Swift has a new album coming out, so I will be listening to that. And I do listen to a fair number of podcasts. I tend to go to Armchair Expert, every once in a while, Tim Ferriss, some of the NPR classics like This American Life or Hidden Brain is pretty good kind of things in that category. Every once in a while, I do listen to some cruise stuff online as well. The big cruise that we were on, there was a Paro DJ. I don't know. Yeah. So they were on board for like the whole cruise. And so I've kind of gotten into watching their stuff just because I got to know them as over the course of the cruise, which was really fun. I'd seen their stuff before, and then I saw them on board and I was like, oh my gosh, you're like, I'm meeting a celebrity. This is
Yeah, they were on my cruise to Alaska.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Actually, it was a dream itinerary. It wasn't just Alaska. It was Hawaii and Alaska.
Oh, I love that. I haven't done the combo before, but I love that.
So they were on there, and another star vlogger that you might have heard of, Cruise with Ben and David.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So I've been trying hard to get Para DJ on the show. Haven't been successful yet. Okay, so you mentioned Taylor Swift. That kind of jives with the next question. What is the last live performance you experienced? It might have been the one on the ship, so I'm not saying it's of Taylor Swift category.
Yeah, no, the last live performance was on the ship. I'm pretty sure. I didn't really go to much this summer for like live performances. So yeah, on the ship. All the different things that are on board. So that would be my last live performance. I have seen Taylor Swift in concert though. It was
okay.
It wasn't during her last big tour. It was in maybe 2018 or 19. It was a while ago, but
okay. How about television and movies? Anything to turn my listeners on to?
I do have a movie recommendation that is a very kind of silly movie, but if you love cruises, I find it really cute. So there's a movie called Out to Sea that is from the mid 90s, and it has Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, those are some like older guys that had been in The Odd Couple, I think maybe in like the 70s. They go,
Iris, I am significantly older than you. I know
I
Walter
know,
Matthau and Jack
I
Lemmon.
know you do, but your listeners might not.
Very much so.
Like when I first told one of my friends about this, they were like, "Who are these people?" And I was like, "You must know who they are." And they're like, "No." The premise of it is that they get signed onto a cruise as dance hosts, and then they basically just cause chaos while they're there. But it's so cute, and it's from so it's a mid-90s kind of rom-com odd couple situation. It's called Out to Sea. It's adorable.
Yeah, I gotta look that up. I'll be
Everyone should
honest.
go watch it. It's so cute.
I'll be honest. I didn't know they were still making movies in the 90s.
Yeah, I don't know how many more they did after that, but yeah, it's quite the hoot. Yeah, it's cute. It's nothing serious, but if you like cruises, it was called Avenue 5. This was a show that I think only had one season, maybe. But if you want to know a little bit of how it felt to live on a cruise ship during the pandemic, like when it first happened, and that nobody had any idea what was going on, the premise of this is it was a cruise ship set in space that gets set off course.
A cruise ship set in space.
Uh-huh.
Well, now, was that on Netflix?
I think it was an Amazon show.
Avenue 5.
Yeah, and it had Josh Gad in it. He was one of the main characters. But yeah, so this space cruise ship gets set off course. It's kind of trajectory is put off, and it's going to get back to Earth like 5 years later or something insane. And so there's the crew that are trying to figure out like, oh, what the heck do we do? And then there's the passengers that are all going absolutely insane, like, like, what do we do? Like, and so just the dynamic between those things. And we happened to come across this show right as the pandemic happened. So like when we were stuck on board, we were watching this show, and it is definitely like a parody of what we experienced. It's not the same thing at all, but just an extreme version of it as that one's kind of entertaining to watch.
I'd never heard of that. Well, I never heard of you turned me on to two good ones, because while I like Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon, I never heard of Out to Sea either. Do you have a favorite movie of all time?
Probably the movie, if it was on, I would pretty much always watch it, is When Harry Met Sally.
Okay.
It's kind of comforting. It's just cute and comforting, and it's got a happy ending. So,
Well, Iris, it is so good to see you again. Thank you for coming on the Joy of Cruising podcast. Coming back on the Joy of Cruising podcast. You cruise a lot, obviously, and have great stories. And I want to watch your family grow at sea. So I know I will have you back again if you will be back. So all the best to you, your family, and to the life of Iris. Until we talk again, as I like to say, we will see you on the ocean.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, if anyone wants to follow along, I'm on Instagram. I have a small YouTube that I sometimes post to, as well as a Facebook page. And of course, the blog itself, which is just lifeofiris.com. So thanks so much for having me. And maybe someday we will see you on the sea.
There you go.
The Joy of Cruising and Cruising Interrupted, each $16.99 plus shipping, and new release, The Joy of Cruising Again, for $18.99, can be ordered at the link on thejoyofcruisingpodcast.com. For each of the three books, use the discount code Joy of Cruising Podcast and get $4 off. The Joy of Cruising books are also available at Amazon. Order the ebook at Amazon or your favorite online retailer. Stay in touch by joining the Joy of Cruising Podcast Facebook group or following the Joy of Cruising Podcast on Instagram. We're constantly adding new shows. Please leave a review and tell a friend about us. We hope you enjoyed this brief escape to the ocean. See you next week.